Hi everyone, Lord Rho back again, and today we are going to be talking about Fulgrim, Primarch of the Emperor's Children, and how Fulgrim could possibly be returning to the Imperium, no less. That's right, I said it, back to the Loyalist side of the fight. So, spoiler warning as usual, I'll be talking about events from the Fabius Bile novel Clone Lord and the Vigilus Defiant campaign book. Now, always go check them out first. I really recommend you read the novels or listen to the audiobooks before listening to the videos. I really believe that's the best way you will enjoy these videos. But with that said, let's just get straight to it. So, for those that may be unaware, Fabius Bile was the chief apothecary for the Emperor's Children during the Great Crusade, and he had an obsession with trying to improve the Emperor's Children's gene seed. For those that aren't aware, the Emperor's Children were all about perfection, and they were all about perfecting upon perfection. It was a flaw that they inherited from their father Fulgrim. And obviously, as Fulgrim turned to Horus's side during the Horus Heresy, Fabius turned along with his father. Now, Fabius has also long been obsessed with cloning or attempting to clone the Primarchs. And he has actually done so before on several occasions, namely Ferrus Manus and Horus. They never quite came out right, however, always seeming to lack something. You know, that's something that quite made them the Primarchs they should be. That was, however, until Fabius was exploring one of his old long destroyed laboratories he'd used to clone the Primarchs before. He was just hoping to scavenge some old research or materials, but he happened to find something that he wasn't quite planning on. His reflection seemed to smile at him. The vox in his helmet crackled. He glanced down at it. When he looked back, it was not his face reflected in the greasy glass, but something else. He turned, but whatever it was not there. He could hear something, singing, distantly, dimly, either far away or close by and quietly. Another trick, another trap. A nearby generator groaned as if on point of cessation. He followed the sound to the final tank, occupying the end of the makeshift nave, the altar stone of this primitive temple. Had he been led here just to find this? It was one of the ones he had been forced to leave behind, and still functioning somehow, thanks to the stolen power. It is the nature of this universe that the old must give way before the new, he said softly. All that was will be washed away, as the sands are taken by the sea. But some old things yet remain, unchanging and unchangeable, stubborn as the rock itself. Wonderingly, he touched the condensation-slick surface of the nutrient vat. He rubbed the excess moisture away and jerked his hand back as the thing within shifted restlessly in its slumber, and turned two perfect features towards him. He was pale. Not in an unhealthy way, but like unpainted marble. Tiny, sturdy limbs tucked against a narrow chest. There was a hint of violet beneath shuttered eyelids, and the thin hair on his head was as white as snow. A perfect infant, several months old, healthy and strong. Fabius hissed in recognition. Fulgrim, he murmured. He wiped more condensation from the reinforced glass. That the infant Primarch still persisted after all this time was all but impossible. He glanced down and saw that somehow the mutants had jury-rigged the power supply unit, hooking it directly to the mains. It was not getting much power, but just enough to keep the system running. The power supply groaned again, sparks dancing along salvaged cables. The tank flickered. It was dying. He thought he knew now why he had been led here, to witness the end of his creation's futile efforts at preserving his legacy. He stepped back, uncertain. The nutrient gel began to darken as oxygen seeped from it, and the filters that kept it sterile began to fail. One by one, the infant within began to twitch and thrash as it slowly suffocated. It would be dead in moments if power wasn't restored. Good. It had lived long, too long already. He turned away, not wanting to see. It was the past, He could not go back, not now. Even so, he did not wish to see the death of a dream. There was no satisfaction in this, simply an ending, long overdue. What is a kingdom without a king? The voice hissed from the vox in his helmet, each word sinking into him like a blade. What is an army without a leader? Torment whined in his grip. What are sons without the father? What is a dreamer without the dream? Fabius snarled and spun. Torment lashed out with a shriek of parting air. Reinforced glass cracked and burst. The tank emptied swiftly, and Fabius braced himself amid the torrent. The infant was carried towards him on a wave. He caught the half-awakened child gently, cushioning its fragile form against his chest. Fabius looked down at his burden. Dark, violet eyes gazed up at him, empty of all save innocent wonder. The baby was filthy, but still beautiful. That had been one of Fulgrim's gifts, to look his best, even at his worst. Tiny hands clutched at him, seeking comfort. Fabius frowned and shook his head. What now? He murmured. Fulgrim's only reply was a wordless murmur of contentment. So, a clone of Fulgrim. And this clone ages to maturity very quickly, as all the Primarchs did. And as it turns out, it's a perfect clone of Fulgrim. Fabius has no idea why this clone has come out perfected when all the others has failed, or even how it has come to be. But it's perfect indeed, and even an Emperor's Children warband finds out for themselves now this Fulgrim comes to see Fabius as a father figure of sorts. So when this warband arrives to kill Fabius, well, the last thing they were expecting to be greeted by was their Primarch, and an angry Primarch no less. Then, suddenly, something new came among them, and Space Marines began to die. Merrick stared in growing horror at the thing that rampaged across the flight deck and through the ranks of his warriors, a giant clad in rudimentary armour stained royal purple. The blade it wielded was little more than a massive cleaver, but the being used it with a skill and grace at odds with its crudity. The saw-edged bite sank into ceramite with ease, rupturing the flesh and bone within. A Space Marine was flung high by the giant's backswing, his body unravelling as it travelled the length of the bay. Emperor's Children moved to attack, but hesitated at the last moment, leaving themselves inexplicably vulnerable. Even those with shots seemed disinclined to take them. Merrick knew why. He could feel it as well as they. The hideous, pressing familiarity of their opponent, the way it moved, the way it fought. But it couldn't be. That was impossible. It simply could not be. Not here. Not now. Before he could pull the trigger, something clamped about the back of his helmet. Pressure seals whined and burst as the ceramite buckled. He released Igori and swung his arm back, firing blind. A powerful blow hammered the pistol from his hand, snapping his bones in his arm in the process. A moment later, he was wrenched from his feet and flung backwards. He crashed into the side of the gunship, denting its hull, and crumpled to the deck. Damaged runes flickered across his display as his battle plate began to redline from the impact. He felt as if he'd been struck by an artillery round. The giant strode towards him, the deck shuddering beneath its tread. "You will not harm her. You will harm no one." The creature's voice needed no artificial boosting. It thrummed out, filling the deck and stifling the sounds of battle. It was the tolling of a bell, the crash of a cannon, the sound of the sea lashing against the shore. The sound of it pierced Merrick to his core, wounding him more deeply than any physical blow. He knew that voice. Every son of the 3rd Legion knew it, as they knew their own. The voice that sang in their blood and whispered in the back of their minds. The voice of the one who was as much God as Father, who had guided them out of slavery and into the terrible wilderness of freedom. As it tolled out, the fighting came to an end. Some Emperor's Children retreated, but others sank down to their knees, murmuring a name. The name, Fulgrim, the risen phoenix. Merrick groped for balance, trying to pull himself to his feet. The giant gave him no time. A giant hand caught his throat and lifted him. Merrick's gasped as he was shoved backwards, further denting the hull of the gunship. Through the visor of the giant's helm, lavender eyes fixated on him and cut away at his soul. "You are in pain. Let me help you." Merrick's cursed as the giant's grip tightened. He clawed at the helm with his false hand. It came loose from the reinforced gorget and fell to the deck with a hollow clang. The face of his gene father stared at him, anger writ on his perfect features. "It can't be," Merrick said, his voice rising to a howl of denial. "You are not him." "I am," Fulgrim said. The grip tightened, vice-like, inexorable. Merrick could not breathe, could not even speak. His denials strangled on his lips unspoken. He could not even ask for forgiveness. As the darkness swept in, the Neverborn were waiting to greet him. So it is Fulgrim, a pure and complete clone, and it even comes to possess the memories of Fulgrim, remembering his brothers, the Emperor, the Great Crusade, and even his betrayal in the Horus Heresy. But the difference is, he despises it. He regrets it deeply. He weeps for what he's done to Ferrus. He beheaded his most beloved brother, Ferrus Manus. And this clone, he can't believe it. He can't believe it ever got to that point, and he hates himself for it. He yearns to atone for his mistakes. And that's exactly what he plans to do. Before he can do that, however, Fabius betrays him. Fabius betrays this Fulgrim in an encounter with Trazyn the Infinite, the Necron. A Necron who, if you're not too sure about him, he captures and collects rare items from across the galaxy, across space and time, and he puts them into like a stasis, and he has this stasis collection. It changes everything, Fabius. He is the Primarch, the Phoenician as he was then, and as he should be now, Fabius said. Careful, Flavius, the Phoenix would not care to hear you say that. He shook his head. It does not matter. He exists. He is here, and forgive me. He crumpled with a dull clang, falling to his knees. He tore off his helmet and held out his sword, balanced across his palms. Fulgrim smiled, and in that moment, Fabius saw the ghost of the true Phoenician in him. Not the hero of Lost Chemos, but the arrogant creature who had been so easily seduced by false promises. The monster that valued his own perfection over the lives of his sons. "I forgive you, my son," Fulgrim said softly. He looked around. "I forgive you all, my wayward sons." "I know you, Flavius. You were with me at Byzas. I remember." "Yes," he said. "Yes, I was with you. I followed you. I followed wherever you led." Fulgrim nodded. "And you will follow me now, my son?" "My Primarch, you are returned to us." Fabius saw he was weeping. "Yes, I will follow you. I will follow you." Around them, other Emperor's children were sinking to their knees, moaning in mingled sorrow and longing. Fulgrim looked at Fabius, the gene child Fabius. "Is it safe?" His eyes blazed with new strength, new awareness, as if the truth of him had been restored in battle. Fabius felt the weight of that gaze, and he cursed the part of himself that responded. "It is," he said. His voice was a hoarse rasp. He felt as if he was standing on the edge of some great chasm, and one more step would send him plunging into impossible gulfs. "Then we have succeeded," Fulgrim said. "We shall be reborn, my sons. We shall rise, and the galaxy shall rise with us, as it was always meant to do." His words echoed across the deck like soft thunder, and Fabius stepped back from the edge. He looked at Trazyn, standing still and silent nearby. "I would like to amend our bargain. Instead of my clone, take this one." He spoke quickly, not trusting himself to say the words. Something in him shrieked in despair, but he forced it aside. It was necessary. It had to be done. And, well, Trazyn then imprisons Fulgrim into stasis as part of his collection. where, as far as we are aware, that's where he's still currently residing. Now, this leaves us at a really interesting and enticing point in the current story. Because if anyone could escape Trajan's collection, you would think it would be a Primarch. Or even maybe the Emperor may sense a pure Fulgrim spirit returned in the galaxy. And somehow, with his psychic powers, help to release him. The Emperor used to be able to sense his Primarchs across the galaxy. Back in the days of the Great Crusade, he could sense them from wherever they were, before the warp storms clouded his vision. So, who's to say, maybe he can again. Trajan himself was at the fall of Cadia, assisting the Imperials in defense of Chaos. He even unleashed some of his collection against Abaddon and his forces. Well, we're at a pivotal time on Vigilus now. Could we maybe see something similar again? This time only with a purified Fulgrim unleashed? Maybe we could even see a Fulgrim versus Fulgrim fight. Loyal Fulgrim versus Demon Fulgrim. I mean, how epic would that be to read? And as I spoke about in this last video, I strongly believe we have Emperor's Children's successor chapter ready and waiting in the aptly named Sons of the Phoenix. I mean, come on. They are all but shouting it out loud. Sons of the Phoenix. And as we saw in the passages, even the current Emperor's children weep at the sight of their father as he once was. This could really lead to some fantastic storytelling. We could have heretical Emperor's children turning when they at the mere sight of their father as he should be. How would they react if they've got loyal Fulgrim in front of them and demon Fulgrim next to them, behind them? Oh man, it's so interesting, so appealing. And the fact that the loyal Fulgrim, he wants to rebirth the Legion as they should have been, as they always should have been on the Great Crusade. How would Guilliman react? How is Guilliman going to react to a loyal Fulgrim? Oh man, it's endless. The outcomes of this are endless. Should they go with it? Obviously, at the moment, they're just teasing us. But should they go down that route, I think it is really, really fascinating. But what do you guys think? Could loyal Fulgrim return? Should he even return? Should they go down this route? Leave me a comment down below with your thoughts, and please leave a like and a subscribe if you're enjoying this channel. It's really helping me to build the channel with each and every subscription. I'm absolutely loving talking about the lore and all the possibilities that it comes with. And with that said, I'll see you guys again real soon.